My family cut me off for wasting their inheritance on my education, but what they did at my graduation stunned me. For most of my life, I dedicated myself to my family. I worked hard to provide for my sons, Ryan and James, making sure they had everything they needed. My wife, their mother, had always been the heart of our home, our rock. When she passed away, everything changed. The house felt emptier, quieter. The warmth that once filled our lives was replaced by an aching void. I found myself lost, searching for meaning in a life that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Then, one day, as I sat in my favorite spot on the living room sofa, a thought struck me. I had always wanted to go to university. It was something my wife and I had talked about often, but life, responsibilities, and time had always pushed that dream aside. Now, with her gone, I needed something to hold on to, something to help me move forward instead of sinking into grief. That evening, my sons were visiting. They sat across from me, their eyes flicking between the television and each other. The tension in the air was almost palpable. I could feel the weight of the conversation I was about to have, but I had already made up my mind. Taking a deep breath, I spoke. I've decided to enroll at the university. My voice was steady, though my heart pounded. I'm using most of the family inheritance savings to pay for it. The room fell into a stunned silence. Then suddenly, Ryan's face turned beet red. "You're kidding, right?" he said, his voice rising. "That money is for the family, Dad. For all of us. You can't just waste it like that." James, usually the calmer of the two, shook his head, his expression cold. "What about our futures? What about our kids? You have grandkids who need school tuition, and you're going to throw away Grandma's savings on a degree. At your age?" I had expected resistance, but hearing their words still stung. "I need this," I said quietly. "After your mother," my throat tightened, but I forced myself to continue. "After she passed, I needed something meaningful. Education has always been important to us. You know that." Ryan slammed his fist on the coffee table, making me flinch. "This is ridiculous. You're being selfish. It's like you don't care about us or what we need." I felt a pang of anger rise in my chest. "Selfish?" I repeated, my voice firm now. "Your mother would have understood. She always wanted me to follow my dreams. I have to honor that." But their faces were set. I could see it in their eyes. They weren't going to budge. The argument stretched on for hours, voices raised, emotions raw, but in the end, nothing changed. When they left that night, the silence they left behind felt heavier than ever. Despite their anger, I followed through with my decision. A few months later, I stepped onto a university campus for the first time. I was surrounded by students, more than half my age, walking past groups of young people laughing and chatting about their assignments. I felt out of place, awkward even, but deep down, I knew I was where I was meant to be. My sons, however, did not see it that way. The moment I enrolled, they cut me off completely. The phone calls stopped, the visits ceased. Holidays came and went without so much as a message from them. I missed them, terribly, but I refused to regret my choice. Years passed, and finally the day I had been working toward arrived. My graduation. I stood tall in my cap and gown, pride swelling in my chest as I looked out at the crowd of students and their families. My heart ached knowing my sons wouldn't be there, but I pushed the thought aside. This was my moment. After the ceremony, I returned home expecting to celebrate alone, but as I stepped inside, I froze. Sitting on my sofa, right where I had been the day I told them about university, were Ryan and James. Their faces were unreadable, but there was something different in their eyes, something softer. For the first time in years, we sat together, in the same room, the tension replaced by something else, understanding, maybe even pride. And in that moment, I knew this journey had been worth it. Once I made my decision to go to university, I threw myself into my studies with everything I had. Every lecture, every discussion, every late-night reading session became a source of energy. It was invigorating to be in an environment where knowledge was celebrated, where ideas flowed freely, and where I could lose myself in learning. I soaked up every moment, reminded of the joy that had always been tucked away in the back of my mind, waiting for its chance to resurface. But outside the walls of the university, the reality of my choices hit hard. My sons, Ryan and James, had not spoken to me since our argument. I checked my phone every evening, a habit I couldn't shake, hoping for even the smallest message, a simple, "How are you, Dad?" or even a holiday greeting. But there was nothing. Days turned into weeks, then months, and still the silence remained. No birthday calls, no family visits. It was as if I had ceased to exist in their world. The neighbors weren't much better. Mrs. Haverly, the woman from across the street who had known my family for years, caught me one afternoon as I was heading inside with a pile of books. Her eyes scanned the textbooks in my arms before she let out a disapproving sigh. "John, at your age? Going back to school? What a waste!" She scoffed, shaking her head. "You should be enjoying retirement, not pretending to be a teenager." I didn't have the energy to argue. I simply nodded and continued inside, shutting the door behind me. But her words lingered, as did the whispers I often overheard. People in the neighborhood spoke about me like I was a lost cause, an old man, foolishly chasing dreams that should have been left in the past. It stung. Yet, I pressed on, holding on to the memory of my wife, Mary. Whenever the doubt crept in, I pictured her warm smile, the way her eyes sparkled whenever we talked about books, knowledge, and the dreams we had once shared. She had always believed in me, in the power of learning, and I refused to let that belief go to waste. Amid the loneliness, I found unexpected support. Dr. Thompson, my literature professor, took a special interest in my progress. One afternoon after class, she approached me with a thoughtful expression. "John, your insights bring such depth to our discussions," she said warmly. "It's refreshing to have someone with your life experience in the class. You make the material come alive in a way that these younger students might not yet understand." Her words gave me a confidence I hadn't realized I needed. And then there were my classmates. Initially, they kept their distance, unsure of what to make of the older man sitting among them. But slowly, the walls broke down. Melissa, a young woman in her 20s, often stayed after class to talk. One day, as we sat in the campus cafe, she smiled at me and said, "I think it's amazing what you're doing, John. My grandfather passed away last year, and I wish he had found something like this to keep him going. You're inspiring even if your family doesn't see it right now." Her words were like balm to my soul. I also found solace in the library, a place that soon felt like a second home. Surrounded by the scent of old books and the quiet hum of students working, I lost myself in literature, finding comfort in the stories that had once shaped my life. Sitting at a corner table, I often imagined Mary across from me as if we were back in our younger days, discussing characters and themes late into the night. Her voice echoed in my mind, steady and kind, giving me strength. But it wasn't always easy. The emotional toll of being cut off by my own sons weighed heavily on me. Some nights, the loneliness was unbearable. I would sit in Mary's old armchair, holding her photograph in my hands, whispering my fears into the empty room. "Mary, I don't know if I can do this," I murmured one evening, my voice breaking. "It's so hard without you. Without the boys." Tears welled up, spilling down my face. The weight of their absence, the silence that stretched between us, felt unbearable. And then, as if carried by the wind, I remembered her voice. Her last conversation with me before she left this world. She had been weak, but her eyes, always so full of life, had shone with determination. "John," she had whispered, "promise me you'll keep living, keep dreaming. Don't let the world make you small." Her words rang in my mind, pulling me back from the edge of despair. With renewed determination, I wiped my tears and picked up my pen. I wasn't just doing this for me, I was doing it for her, for us. Education was my tribute to her memory, a way to keep her spirit alive. And so, I pushed through the pain and isolation, driven by a purpose far greater than myself. After years of hard work, graduation day finally arrived. The weight of my cap and gown felt heavier than I'd expected. As I stood in line with the other graduates, waiting for my turn to walk across the stage, a mixture of emotions swirled inside me. Pride, sadness, gratitude, regret. When my name was called, I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The sound of applause filled the auditorium, echoing all around me, but my heart felt hollow. My eyes scanned the crowd, hoping, just maybe, that I would see Ryan and James sitting among the cheering families. But their seats were empty. A cold wave of realization settled over me. They hadn't come. I accepted my diploma with steady hands, forcing a small smile as I shook the dean's hand. This moment should have been one of pure joy. I had worked so hard for it. Yet a part of me couldn't shake the ache of absence. If Mary had been here, she would have been beaming with pride, her eyes shining with happy tears. She would have squeezed my hand and whispered, "I knew you could do it, John." As I made my way back to my seat, I blinked away the sting of tears. I had done this for her, for me, and no matter who was missing, this was still my achievement. The drive home was a quiet one. The road stretched out before me as I let my thoughts drift back to the years of effort it had taken to get here. The late night studying, the endless essays, the friendships I had made along the way. It had all been worth it. Even in my loneliness, I had found purpose again. But as I turned onto my street, something unusual caught my eye. Several cars were parked haphazardly in front of my house, more than I had ever seen at one time. My stomach tightened with uncertainty. Had someone broken in? Was there an emergency? Slowly, I pulled into my driveway and turned off the engine. A mix of confusion and apprehension settled over me as I stepped out of the car. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached the front door. Taking a deep breath, I turned the knob and stepped inside. The moment my eyes adjusted to the warmly lit room, I froze in place. The living room, the same living room where my sons had once sat in anger and disappointment, was now full of life. Laughter and conversation filled the space, mingling with the scent of something sweet baking in the kitchen. Faces I hadn't seen in what felt like a lifetime turned toward me, their expressions filled with joy. My grandchildren. They were all there. At the center of it all stood Lila, my oldest granddaughter, her eyes bright with emotion. Before I could process what was happening, she rushed toward me and threw her arms around my shoulders. "Grandpa!" she cried, holding me tightly. "We missed you so much!" For a moment, I was too stunned to respond. I pulled back slightly, searching her face, my voice shaky with disbelief. "Lila, what is all this? How did you—" She smiled, wiping a tear from her cheek. "We found out about your graduation," she said. "I have a friend at the university who told me. We couldn't stay away any longer." I looked past her, taking in the sight of my other grandchildren, all watching me with expectant smiles. A lump formed in my throat. Lila continued, her voice full of warmth. "I knew where Dad keeps a spare key to your house, so here we are." The initial shock began to wear off, replaced by something deeper, something warmer. Lila took my hand and led me further into the room. My grandchildren gathered around, their faces full of something I had longed to see for years, understanding. "We know about the fight with Dad and Uncle James," Lila said softly, speaking for them all. "But we decided to throw a party to celebrate your achievement anyway. We admire you so much for what you've accomplished, Grandpa." The words hit me like a wave, overwhelming and beautiful. I swallowed the thick emotion rising in my chest, my voice barely above a whisper. "I never meant to cause such a divide," I admitted. I needed to do this for myself, for your grandmother." Lila squeezed my hand. "We understand," she said, "and we're here to celebrate you. We wanted to show you how proud we are." Looking around at the faces of my grandchildren, I saw nothing but love. The room felt warm in a way that had nothing to do with the heat from the kitchen. For the first time in years, I felt truly home. The evening had been a surprise, one I hadn't seen coming. My grandchildren had gone through the trouble of setting up a small celebration, just for me. The living room was decorated with colorful streamers and balloons, and the smell of freshly delivered pizza filled the air. It was simple, but to me, it meant everything. One by one, they took turns sharing stories, funny memories from their childhood, things they remembered about their grandmother, and even a few embarrassing tales about me that made everyone laugh. As I listened, I could see the admiration in their eyes, the warmth in their voices. It was like a soothing balm on an old, lingering wound, one I had carried for far too long. Lila, my eldest granddaughter, reached out and took my hand. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. "We're sorry for the distance," she said. "We love you, Grandpa, and we want to be part of your life." Her words settled deep in my chest, filling a hollow space I hadn't realized was still there. For years, I had accepted the quiet loneliness, the empty rooms, the long evenings with only memories for company. But now, hearing them say they wanted to be here, it was like a healing touch. "Thank you," I replied, my voice cracking. "This means more to me than you can imagine." As the night went on, the house buzzed with laughter and chatter. The kids joked with each other, told silly stories, and even argued good-naturedly over the last slice of pizza. The sound of their voices, the way they filled the space. It was alive in a way it hadn't been in years. I sat back in my chair, watching them, a deep sense of peace washing over me. Lila settled beside me, her expression thoughtful. "Grandma would be so proud of you," she said quietly. I smiled, feeling the sting of tears in my eyes. "I think she would be, and she'd be proud of all of you for being here." Lila squeezed my hand. "We'll visit more often, Grandpa. We promise." I knew that not every broken bridge could be fully mended. My strained relationships with Ryan and James might never completely heal, and that was a pain I had learned to live with. But looking at my grandchildren, their kindness, their willingness to reach out, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. They were my family, my connection to the future, and they had chosen to stand by me. As the party wound down and the house grew quiet again, I found myself reflecting on the long road that had led me here. It had been filled with pain, mistakes, and sacrifices, but it had also brought me to this moment. A moment where love, however imperfect, had found its way back. Mary would have been proud. And as I sat there, surrounded by the echoes of laughter and the warmth of my grandchildren's love, I knew I had done the right thing. My journey wasn't over. There would still be challenges, still be days when the loneliness crept in. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. And that made all the difference.